I got a call the next morning, and I had had a very wakeful night that night, and just discomfort, I guess. And the next morning at 6:30, my phone rang, and it was my mother calling from the States. And she opened the conversation by saying, "I'm so sorry, darling." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Smitty's been shot down, and they don't think he made it."
They were very unhappy. They correctly identified me as the pilot who was bombing their bridge. And they pushed me up against a broken down brick wall of a building that had been a building. And he came up and put his finger right here while his buddies were not over 12 feet away. And I guess your mind will not let you comprehend such a dire thing. I tried to say a prayer. I tried to stand up straight and look as military as I could in my skivvies. And some older Vietnamese milled in between in front of the guys with the rifles. And he was no, 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 or whatever their word for no is. And some other people milled in, and so my life was saved.
And from time to time during the years, I would worry about him terribly, and I would feel like he was sick or hurting or something like that. But I always believed he was alive. And of course we prayed. Went to church every single day until I went into the hospital to have Lyle over in Okinawa. And drove myself to the officers club, cashed a check, drove myself to the hospital, and the nurse said, "Well, we're not keeping you." Because I walked in with a suitcase, and she said, "Well, I can tell you we're not going to keep you." And I said, "I am here to have this baby, and this is my third child, and you will be keeping me." And about that time, Dr. Franklin walked in, and he said, "Oh, for God's sakes, take her back there and let's check her." And 45 minutes later, Lyle was born. And when he said, "Miss Harris, you have a beautiful baby boy." And I said, "Oh, don't be silly, I only have little girls." But Lyle had arrived, and he was a wonderful, wonderful gift. So he got on the phone, and after some machinations, he got him on the phone, and he hands the phone to me, and I told him who I was and what my problem was. And he said, "Well, now, Mrs. Harris, this is what the decision that we've made about men and your husband's status of missing in action." I said, "Sir, I really don't care what decisions you have made, but I have a power of attorney. I have the papers my husband signed that I am to receive 100% of allotment. This is what has happened while I've been in Okinawa, and this is what I intend to happen, because I cannot live and support 3 children on $350 a month, put a roof over their head and food in their mouths, and I intend to receive his full pay and allotment." And he said, "Well," he said, "let me give this some thought, and I'll get back to you in about a week." And I said, "No, sir. I have been traveling from Okinawa with 3 babies, and I will expect to hear back from you before the close of business today." And he said, well, Mrs. Harris, he said, I think you're being unreasonable. I said, no, sir, you are being unreasonable. And I do have a power of attorney. I can sell these children if I want to, but I'm not going to. They are mine to take care of, and that's what I intend to do, and this is what my husband intended me to do. We are legally married, and I want and intend to get this settled this afternoon. I'm very tired. I need rest, and I need to take care of my children. And he said, okay, Miss Harris, I'll get back to you. Well, he called me back within an hour, and he said, all right, Mrs. Harris, we've got this worked out. And evidently he'd called Colonel Cardenas and realized I was responsible. So anyway, that was my first hurdle to get over. There were so many things to worry about, but on the surface, I had to be upbeat because of the children. So there were lots of issues, but the main ones that I felt were with our own government because they weren't being aggressive enough to get the men out. So I got a letter early on, and I knew it was confirmed that he was now detained by hostile forces. One of the rare real letters, a full letter, of course they had censored it, but it was from him. It was in his own hand, and it said he was alive, that he was being well treated.
I loved her and the kids, and for them not to worry that when we got back together, everything would be just as it
he was going to be fine,
had been.
And that he looked forward to coming home to us. And, you know, it was just a very generic letter, but it was his own handwriting, and it looked beautiful to me. So I read it, and then I called and read it to Smitty's parents and my parents, and there was wild celebration, and the children were ecstatic. They kept telling us, oh, they're going to come out and they're going to be withdrawn, and I poo-pooed that. I said, when he gets out, he's going to be upbeat. He's going to be glad to be home. I don't believe you. You know, the night they showed him coming down the runway, down the gangplank at Clark, and we knew they were going to be calling us. And people kept calling and calling and calling, and I was just frantic. You know, we didn't have cell phones and all that back then, and I kept saying, I can't talk to you, I can't talk to you, I can't talk to you. I'm waiting for Smitty to call. And so when Smitty's escort officer was Rudy Dobrano, and of course I knew Rudy well, and I said, Rudy, I can't talk to you, I'm waiting for... He said, don't hang up, I've got him right here. And, I always knew everything was going to be okay between us, but in that moment, I thought, oh, please, God, just let him say something that lets me know that he feels the way I do.
And when Rudy Dobrano handed me the phone with Louise on the other end, the first thing I said was, hi, Jane.
This is Tarzan. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you how I felt, because it had always been a joke between us. And I thought, everything is perfect.